Hello and welcome to a 6th grade edition of the Hauger History Podcast with Mr. Hauger. I am the second part, and today, with some baby noise in the background, we're going to be talking about the geography of ancient Greece. Greece is a small country in Europe and one of the most significant empires in all of ancient history, certainly one that your teacher will be spending a lot of time with wherever you're going to school. But I have a specific question about Greece in your unit, post it in the comment section down below, or tweet us at Hauger History. So glad to be with you to talk a little bit about geography of Greece in what will be a multi-part series in the study of ancient Greece. Greece is a small country in Europe near the Mediterranean Sea. The main part of Greece is on a peninsula. A peninsula is a body of land surrounded by water on three sides. One of the most well-known peninsulas is very close to our school, the San Francisco Bay Area of California. Surely a number one stop. If you've traveled around California, you've probably been by as well. One of the things that made ancient Greece unique was its organization politically. Greece was made up of many islands and had lots of mountains as well. So before you think about driving anywhere, you have to think about the ancient world and how long it would have taken to travel anywhere. And because of these barriers, Greeks began to build city-states instead of one country. So each different city-state, or polis, of ancient Greece would be like its own independent country in some ways. It's a city with its own laws, its own rulers, and its own money system. City-states were cities that acted like countries that were sovereign to themselves. Take a look at this map and you'll see a lot of very famous cities, and you'll no doubt know Sparta and Athens, but there were many unique cultures that were developing in these independent, barrier-laden areas of Greece, and all of them developed their own unique identity. Sparta is perhaps the most well-known, a powerhouse, and because of recent Hollywood films, perhaps the most well-known polis of all time in ancient Greece. It was a military army of massive proportions for the ancient world. And there were three classes of people in Sparta. There were citizens, non-citizens, and slaves. Sparta's classes, only men were citizens. Women were not allowed to become citizens, however. They were allowed to own land and businesses, which gave them more freedom than women in other Greek city-states. The second class in Sparta was people who came from other city-states and other countries. They could own businesses but not ever become citizens and be represented with rights. And the third class was slaves. Spartan warriors, this is something that you'll no doubt learn about in your unit. Learning to read and write was not very important. However, training to become a good soldier, putting up a fight like John Cena heading into WrestleMania, was extremely important. Young boys were taken from their parents, which seems rough in our modern perspective, and trained to be soldiers as well as good in sports such as running. And girls were trained to be good in sports as well, so ladies, you had that going for you as well. Athens, one of the most significant and important Greek city-states. The people of Athens wanted to rule themselves and not have a king or queen. Athens became the world's first democracy around 508 BC, and it's a democracy in which all citizens could vote and have equal say in what happens. But remember, you had to be a citizen to have voting rights. Athens was the helm, the centerpiece of the development of democracy, because all citizens could vote, but only half of Athenians were citizens. So we've got to do the math there. Women who were born outside of Athens and slaves could not vote. Take a look at Pericles. Pericles was the leading center and one of the leading areas of Athens, had many buildings constructed. They were far ahead of their times. This includes the Parthenon and the Acropolis. Really amazing visuals there. Education in Athens was very important. In our class, we separate into different houses, and Athens is one of the most educated. Boys went to school to learn to read and write. They also learned many sports. Girls were not allowed to go to school or learn to play sports in Athens. So a little difference there between Sparta and Athens. Let's talk about the Greek alphabet for a second. The Greeks borrowed their alphabet from the Phoenicians. Most European languages, including English, borrowed ideas from this Greek alphabet. Take a look, alpha, beta, gamma, delta, epsilon, zeta. You've probably learned the song. If you haven't, my students are definitely in the process of memorizing this specific language set right now. So how about Socrates? Let's talk about some of the most influential Greek thinkers. Get it past the geography for a moment. Socrates was a philosopher of ancient Greece, someone who tries to explain the nature of life, and he taught by asking questions. Why do you think Socrates did this? Let's see what I did there. So this method of questioning is still called the Socratic method to this day. It's one of the reasons I ask my students questions daily. I believe this conversation fosters communication and thoughtfulness that benefits everybody in the long run. Plato was a student of Socrates, perhaps his most famous student. He started at a school that was called the Academy. It's a session of learning that we learn in our Greeks class in the 6th grade. And Plato's writing took the form of a dialogue between teacher and student, and isn't that what it's all about? Leave your comments and questions in the comment section below. Aristotle, another Greek philosopher and student of Plato, he wrote about science, art, law, poetry, and government. It's amazing how much you can get done when NBA 2K is not in your life. That's just a joke. But it's funny because people dedicated themselves to their education, to furthering the education of those around them, to sharing ideas and culturally diffusing ideas from Europe and from other areas and improving upon them and developing upon them and thinking on things day and night until you were developing something great. Speaking of great, take a look at Alexander the Great. The Great was the son of King Philip II of Macedonia. He conquered Persia, Egypt, the Middle East, and northern India. He died at age 33 and had taken over a huge chunk of the world. Just take a look at Alexander's empire. He died on his return to Babylon in 323 BC, but look how much land he held. Southern Europe, northern Africa, the western parts of Asia. Absolutely amazing how much he could get done in his youth. And that's just a quick overview of the Hauger History Podcast in ancient Greece, a little bit about geography, and we also learned about some philosophers there. So remember, when you're studying Pericles, Athens, the Greek alphabet, Socrates, Plato, and Aristotle, this is just the tip of the Greek iceberg. I wish I had a graphic of like a Greece iceberg, and I would throw it in right there. Got any questions? Leave them for us in the comment section. Please subscribe, tell your friends and other students about our podcast, and we'll see you on the next edition of the Hauger History Podcast. I'm Mr. Hauger. Thank you for listening, and please push in your chairs, and we'll talk to you next time.